What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast, powered by DeerCast. And as always, some ice cold First Form energy.
All right, you're Tim Chelswick. I'm Matt Drury.
And one of us is a killer. Hey, if anyone needs deer hunting advice, they've come to the right place.
That's right. We're basically experts.
I'm going to be insufferable for the next couple weeks.
All right, so we got a lot to share on this one. So your daughter killed her first buck, right, with a bow.
Yeah, she's been trying for 6 years. She's killed a doe before, but she really wanted to kill a buck. And her first hunt of the year, I popped up a blind in the middle of the timber.
Well, let's say what all we're going to go over real quick. So your daughter's first buck.
Yep.
You killed deer with your bow. Cameron killed his first archery deer, a doe, and with a crossbow, and he killed a buck at Dad's over youth season. So we got a lot to cover.
A lot.
Let's start with the top. Sophie's was the first of this onslaught.
Yeah. I found a persimmon tree back in the timber, set up a Deceptor cell cam on it, and popped up a blind and hung a put a mock scrape in and put a scrape rope over it, and got pictures of a nice, probably 2-year-old 8-pointer that was visiting that spot. So we went out, bow hunted it the week before, and we had a real close call with a spike, and he wanted to shoot it so bad. We had the safety off, but he never presented a good shot. So Sophie and I were sitting. We got out there in the evening, and she saw some bucks working off to the west of us, coming off public land, some thick stuff, and they filtered down. But at some point, she's like, "Oh, one's not going with the other ones. It's coming this way," and I can't really see very good because I've got the blind windows up. But before that happened, we had a herd of does filter through. And there's very little wind in the timber, and we're on a hillside, and they split us. 2 of them walked in front of us at probably 20 yards. The other 5 or 6 walked behind us at maybe 5 steps. And I thought for sure we're going to get busted. They're going to wind us. We had used nose jammer getting in there. None of them got spooky. They just fed on, which was great. Anyway, it's getting dark, and Sophie says she's seen these deer off in the distance. But it was like one of those things where you're looking at your watch, counting down the minutes to last light, and one started to break our direction. And I'm checking my watch. I'm checking the camera to make sure it can still see. I had some point of view cameras out in the woods that I didn't even bother turning on because it just wouldn't have picked it up. And it's darker in the timber than it would have been in a field. But she's standing there with the Mission crossbow on the little tripod. And her heart is, she's freaked out because she has worked so hard. She's put in the time. Yeah. And it's one of those things where when you start hearing those hooves punch through the leaves, it's like, okay, this is happening. It's game on.
Yeah.
And he walks in front of us. He's so close. He's maybe 12, 15 yards tops.
Yeah.
And you're eye to eye with him. In fact, he's a little bit above us because he's on, it's a hillside. And I was like, "Can you see him?" He's like, yeah. And so I'm on him with the camera, and she doesn't ask if she can shoot. She just says, "I'm shooting him." And
be ready.
Yeah. Ready or not. And he had turned a little bit to like groom himself or something. So completely opened up that left side of the rib cage, quartering away, and she lets it rip. And I thought she spined him because he dropped immediately. And I thought, oh no, this is going to be graphic, and he's going to be bawling, and just like, it's going to be bad. So I start to, I take the crossbow off and try to put another bolt into it. And, but I'm watching him, and he just rolls a little bit and tries to get up, and then is done. 15, 20 seconds.
Wow.
And she just put a really good hit on him.
Knocked him over.
Quartering away, and pretty much severed lung and then everything that comes out of the top of the heart.
Pass through?
So,
or did she hit the off shoulder?
I think it hit the off shoulder.
That's maybe what knocked him over.
Well, and it very well could be. And then I think it bounced back out because he had no exit hole and like a 15-yard shot with a crossbow.
Yeah, that'd blow right through.
Yeah. So it must have bounced back out because there was no exit wound.
I bet that's what happened. I bet it hit the off shoulder, knocked him over.
Very well could have been.
know?
Yep. Yeah. I hadn't even considered that. So it's just one of those things where you sit and you sit and you sit, and nothing happens, and all of a sudden, within the span of a minute or two, your world completely changes. She's a buck killer. She's
how excited was she? Tears.
She was laughing and crying at the same time.
Good for her.
And it was a little tough for her to see the deer struggle on the ground. I was like, that's normal. Something broke inside if you're not a little sad. When that happens. But then it was all the pictures and it was a great time, and she was super, super proud of it. By the time we got back home, it was 9 o'clock, and she happened to be really tired. So Dad got to do all the field dressing and butchering.
Did she help you drag it? Because you're not like where you got 4-wheelers or side by side, like you're dragging it out.
I let her try.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah. And she was able to heft it maybe 5 or so yards.
Yeah.
And then not so much.
Yeah. Good for her.
So.
Proud of her. Proud of you. That's a tough, it's been one you've been working for. So that's a cool story.
So, and it just made its way to the taxidermist yesterday.
What she decided to do?
It was like an upright, well, I got it here.
It's a shoulder mount?
Oh yeah.
That's what that's a Cameron. I was like, you want to do a Euro? He's like, no, I'd like to have the whole head. And I'm like, okay.
I was kind of pushing her towards that, but no, Dad's gonna drop. Well, and the taxidermist that agreed to that's doing it kind of turned my safe buck the wrong direction. Said he would give me a discount on the next deer, and so that's what he's that's what he's doing.
That's cool.
Right turn, semi sneak. Square shoulder.
Good for her. Congratulations.
So she's wanting to go kill a buck with a rifle now.
Good. Yeah, because she was a little timid about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good.
So she's totally locked in.
Yeah.
Bo,
he's
Fortnite,
still young.
Minecraft.
He's still young. I mean, that's him and Lola are about the same age. I mean, they're just a little young. I mean, I know some people, their kids at 6 are ready, but some people's kids aren't ready until they're 10 even, it just is what it is. You got to be ready when they're ready.
And a different kid at his age, Sophie was all about it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Cam, same. Mm-hmm. Lola, it's happy to be alive.
Totally different personalities. But then, so I killed, it's been 2 weekends ago now, a buck that I probably didn't deserve. It was on a new property I got. It's 10 acres.
Yeah.
And it's almost straight down. I mean, it's super, super steep. But at the bottom, there's an intermittent creek down there and a little flat spot. My buddy Tony and I went in and amended the soil and put in a little food plot, clover plot. And I found a shed off it this past spring, like a nice 5-point side. But I've had cameras down there, and I needed to move them a little bit. I wasn't seeing a whole lot of buck movement, some does coming through. So I hunted it September 15th, saw some does, hunted it the 16th, I think, and then have let off it until a few weekends back. I went in there kind of sight unseen. And man, it was, I think, getting close to 5 o'clock. This is before the time change. And I saw a deer down the valley on the neighbor's piece, cross over through some thick stuff up the hill, across the creek bed, and then onto the other neighbor's piece. They own like 80 some acres. It's a beautiful piece on the other side. And I could tell he was hitting a scrape because I could see a branch bobbing. It was so thick back in there. But I hit him with a couple grunts off that DOD buck bark. And sure enough, he quit the scrape, and I could tell he had turned and was starting to come towards me.
Nice.
And it's like, hey, it worked. Be cool.
I'm Mark.
Right.
Look at me calling.
I'm the buck commander. I tell them to do things. And so he's coming through, and it's very thick in there, so you're only catching glimpses of him, and he's taking his time, of course. But and then there was a spike down below me, just kind of meandering around. But this deer came within 20 yards, but was still behind some scrubby crap down there. And I was looking at it, I was like, I haven't seen this deer on on any trail camera, but he's pretty wide. He looks like a pretty mature deer. And so like, then the switch flips like, okay, if he gives me a shot, I'm going to shoot him. So I'm getting all the cameras set up and everything. And, again, this is a deer that I probably didn't deserve to harvest because he eventually works off, like he's off to, I'm hunting in a hang on stand or a lock on, and he's on the left side of the tree. So I could kind of maybe get a shot down here. I've got the camera arm over here, but then he kind of strafes and goes this way to my right. I've got to pull the camera all the way around, just thinking, okay, I could lose him here because it's a lot of movement. I got to take my bow and come between me and the tree and put it on the right side of the tree, and he skirts the plot.
And for a righty, shooting on the right side of the tree is usually difficult.
Yes, yeah. And so, but he stops at, I made a noise at him and stopped him at 20 yards broadside. And I held on his heart, and I have a single pin sight, and I must have shot a little bit low because the arrow skipped off just, behind that front leg.
I didn't know this part.
There's more for like the TV show than the footage that I put in the DeerCast video. I skipped it off of him. Somehow it just didn't bite, and it was to the angle. Like I was up pretty high.
Yeah.
But it was one of those where he ran off a couple steps, and I'm like, here comes the blood. Just wait for it. He's gonna get woozy. Nothing. And I expected him to drop a little bit, and he stood there. It was just so close. I guess he didn't have time to react. So then the thinking strikes you like, get another arrow in there. Yeah. Like he's not gone, but he's facing dead away from me now at about 30 yards, chomping on acorns.
It's the time of year, man. They're dumb. They lose their minds.
It was unreal.
Testosterone and
so I come to full draw, and and he just keeps eating. Head down.
Weird.
It's so crazy.
Hey, dummy.
And I'm at full draw. I looked at the footage. I'm at full draw for a full 60 seconds. Trying to make noises. I legit thought about hollering, hey.
Hey, it works.
I'm not above it. So I was like, I can't hold this forever. And I don't want to let down and then have him turn.
Yeah.
So I snort wheezed at him just with my mouth. Yes. And he spun around, but he went farther than broadside. He started to quarter two.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I was like, doggone it. But I had enough of an angle on him. But in the past I've hit the shoulder, and I just find myself so concerned about hitting shoulder that I definitely compensated too much and let the arrow fly. And in the meantime, I had to change my single pin sight to range him out to 30 yards. So there's just a lot of stuff to do. And, but made the shot, hit him back and hit him high. But I was shooting that Nap Kill Zone trophy tip with the 2-inch cut.
Yep.
And it put a hole in him.
Did it?
Because he ran off, and I was following him with the camera, and he stops kind of back from the direction he came, and you can see just a massive hole. The arrow had busted off in him. And then he stands there for a few seconds and then trots off with his tail up.
Oh, tail up's never great.
Yeah. So I checked DeerCast track, and it said like 12 to 14 hours based on the hit. And
so he's slightly quartering to you.
Yep.
It hits a little back. So what is it? Is it liver gut or just gut? What were you thinking you hit?
Liver and guts.
Okay.
Yep. And there was no exit wound.
Okay.
And so because it was a high entry, I wasn't confident that there would be any blood. When I got down finally, I went to the spot where he stopped for a minute, and I saw 2 drops, about the size of quarters of dark red liver blood.
Okay.
No gut material, just like dark red liver blood. So I backed out, and I was like, immediately I felt bad. I totally botched the 20-yard broadside shot. So dumb. Like I felt so stupid.
Yeah.
So checked DeerCast track, called Mark, and he kind of went through. He watched the footage. He's like, "Oh, I actually like, you're inside the body cavity, which is good." And this is something that Mark caught. He was like, he puts his head down when he stops. You could tell he's losing blood in there. So just the way it wasn't real clear, but he was getting a little drowsy. So he's like, deer cast track is pretty much right on 12 to 14 hours, especially because I'm in and around so many different small
you cannot
parcels.
Push the deer.
Yeah, you and I were texting that night. You're like, don't go push him
because then you're screwed asking other people that cross property lines, and who knows if they let it hunting happen or whatever.
Yeah. So
you're in a tough spot.
So that night I put together a group of guys to come out, because not only if we found the deer, which was a big if, that's one thing, but getting him out of there, it's so freaking steep. It's over 200 feet down in this valley. And it's there's no way to get a machine down in there to drag him out. So put together a group of very good friends who are willing to come do a drag. But Mark said also, hey, I got this guy, Jack, who has done some deer research for me on my piece with a thermal drone. You should probably give him a call. And I'm so glad that we did. I never wanted to be a guy that has to use the thermal drone, but
hey, I'm not above
it's
it.
like, it's why you have an insurance policy. You never hope
well, and Missouri is a state that it's legal to do so. It's they welcome it, so it's a tool to use.
Yeah, because just based on where he was definitely off me. He was at least two properties over. I have access to the adjacent property, but I don't know who owns the one farther down. So Jack came that next morning. So that was Sunday morning. Got the drone up in the air. Immediately within a minute, finds a heat signature. He's like, "Oh, here's your deer." So
that's crazy.
He flips over to video from infrared, and it's some poor guy hunkered down under a tree, looking up with his crossbow. he was deer hunting on two pieces over. I was like, "Oh boy,
this just got worse."
Sorry. It's like the Predator drone footage from over in Afghanistan. I was like, "Oh, that's not good." So he flips back on the infrared, goes up a little higher, pans, and sees another heat signature about 75 yards away from the guy, and flips it over, and it's my deer laying over on his back, white belly up, just completely stone cold dead.
I just keep thinking what that guy was thinking.
Well, so Sophie and I went to knock on some doors because I didn't have access to that
Bring
property.
the daughter. Good call.
100%. And my line, it was 7:00 on a Sunday morning, which is not great. Finally, some lady answered the door, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't mind if you go down," but she didn't have direct access to that parcel. Sophie and I are walking back to our friends at my buddy's house, and a truck is coming into the subdivision. A guy wearing the same camo that the guy that was hunting was wearing. And I introduced myself. I was like, "Were you hunting?" He's like, "Yeah." "Were you flying a drone?" "Yeah, that was us."
That could have gone wrong real easily.
The deer died on the backside of his piece. He was so cool. He let all of us come down.
Very nice
and retrieve the deer. He couldn't have been nicer about it. And it took 6 of us taking turns hauling this deer out to get him out. But you hate not to put a great hit on a deer, and sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
It's nice when you got some buddies that are willing to come
for sure.
and help out.
There's always a group of guys everybody has that you text right away. And you're like, "All right, I hit one. What do you think of the shot? Here's where I hit him." You get advice, and the group that you can rely to come help you.
Yeah. So absent that drone, we would have had to knock on a bunch of doors and get permission.
Kind of blindly look.
Yeah, because I the guys did say they saw blood leading up to the bed. He only had 2 beds, and they were right next to each other. So it looks like he just went, laid down, and thrashed around a little bit, and died sometime during the night, because he was pretty cool and very stiff.
Yeah.
But we got him. It felt good to finally get a deer. And knowing that, I was like, okay, it's so early enough. I've still got time, because sometimes if it's too early in the season, you a little pickier about what you shoot. But having not killed a good buck in the past 2 years, and knowing I wanted to get to Illinois to try to hunt up there it's been a year since I've hunted Illinois. I was like, oh, this kind of unlocks my ability to do all that.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice to get the monkey off the back. More than anything, when you're in a dry stretch like that, it's just nice to notch the tag too. And it's like a renewed faith in your abilities, even though it didn't quite go the way you planned, it's a step in the right direction for the next one, right?
Well, it's crazy because the day before I'd punched my antlerless tag on on a deer that I shot at 20 yards, and heart shot just blew it up and it died within seconds. So I was like, I can shoot. I know I can shoot. But man, having a buck in front of you after having it been so long. Close call.
So well, nice to have the monkey off the back, go over Illinois, see some of those big bodied deer over there, those corn raised deer.
Yeah, even the small deer there are big compared to the deer that I'm hunting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's almost like a different subspecies, it would feel like, a suburban deer versus farm,
acorns versus corn and soybeans.
So,
100%.
Awesome, man.
But you guys have been busy too.
Yeah, I mean, Cam, I took him out. I purchased a new piece of property. Terry and I went in together, and it has a little building on it. It's got a little fixed up kind of place to stay inside, like a 20 by 20 place to stay inside it. And so we're getting towards the closing, and the owner said, hey, go up if you want to hunt. And so I was like, you know what? There was a couple deer, I had cameras on it, and a couple deer, that great deer to kill. I would be tickled to death if Cameron had a chance, and he's shown a lot of interest this year. And so we practiced a lot with a crossbow. Justin Lurk lives right by me, and his kids, we were shooting the crossbow. Lola got to shoot, his daughter and his son were shooting. And so we were just kind of messing around. It was warm, kind of still warm. And this a few weeks back. And so I'm like, hey, if you want to go, I'll take you. And he's like, yeah, let's go up. I want to go. And so we went up to the new farm, and I had a Keen trailer with a muddy, or that might have been a hawk blind on a Keen trailer. So I got the Keen trailer. I took it out. There's one spot on the whole farm that has food on it. Just so happens the guy planted some beans on it. So I was like, I'm going to set it up on these beans. And so I went in there, I popped up this blind, I set it up, all this stuff. And it was a hot day. All right. It was a Sunday, I think, or Sunday. And so we go in, and it's hot, and we're kind of hunting on an iffy wind. So I kept all the windows shut, and I had a fan, but it was like probably 110 in there. I mean, it was so hot, and I can't handle it. You can handle it, but a kid is another story. And he was drenched. I was drenched, and it started, and we saw a ton of deer, ton of turkeys, like out of the gate. We were seeing tons of animals. And so it started getting real, like where I look over at one point, and he's like, and I could see tears forming. I was like, you know what, buddy, I'll open the window. Like, just, it's fine. Whatever. Whatever.
You don't want it to be torture.
Exactly. So I opened the window, and it instantly, 20 degrees cooler, it feels like. So it's bearable for him. And finally,
were you concerned about the wind?
Yeah, because I think the bucks that we were going to hunt were coming from where our wind was blowing to, is what it is. I was, not concerned if we would have had it sealed up, but when you open it up, I thought, well, okay. We did see a buck down the other end of the field. It was young, but I would have let him shoot it, obviously. And he didn't come down, but it was exciting to see finally a doe and two fawns. They're coming down, and I had that front window open, looking straight down the beans, and like the timber's on our right-hand side, all right? And then the beans go to our left-hand side, and it's 50 yards from where the blind is to where the edge of the timber is. And so I thought they're going to just walk this path or whatnot. And they did. They were. Well, I had to move the bog pod and the crossbow, which was obviously cocked already. And so I moved it to the left, and then I had to open that window. I'm also filming everything, and I'm also range finding, and I'm also correcting the HHA dial. So I'm doing all that. I put the window up, and it didn't, those hawks and muddies, it's got almost like a little arm or lever up where the window goes inside of. All right. And you have to push that up to get the window back all the way into this groove. I guess I didn't push it back, and it's darker in there, and I didn't see it. And I push it back, but not enough. And so when I let go and then I went to go film, the window comes down and,
hey,
slams.
We're over here.
Yeah, slams on and I was like, crap. And the deer ran off 30 yards or so, but they didn't leave. And Cameron's like, what did you do? And I was like, sorry, buddy, just maybe they'll come back.
I'm trying to sabotage your hunt.
Yeah. And so they start committing and coming back. And so I open the window back up, I range the deer, and meanwhile, I'm setting the camera down to do this. So I set the camera down, I'm ranging it, I'm changing the dial, which is I'm going across the crossbow to do this, and he's on it. He's a good shot, so I'm not worried about him. But I get it dialed. It's a 50 yard. It was 48 yards, so I dial it to 50, and So I'm like, I said, how'd it go? They were walking. He's like, it's walking. I was like, Mer, and it didn't stop. He's like, it won't stop. And Mer, and then I zoom in my sight picture, what was the only deer I could see in the middle of the window, and I zoom in and he shoots. And then I don't see anything until I see a deer run through the screen. And I instantly knew I was filming the wrong deer.
This is like flashbacks to your hunt
Colorado.
with Mark.
Yeah. And so I was like, I pay him back to him. I was like, buddy, I missed the shot. I don't know, where did you shoot? And I put the camera down. I was like, I pulled up Deercast track, and he showed me, and it was pretty much, right behind the heart, kind of a little low. He's like, but it was moving a little bit. And I was like, oh, buddy, we don't shoot it if it's moving. What was it doing exactly? Well, what really happened was he shot it and then it moved. So I zoom in, I see the arrow over there because it's got a knock on it. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go get out. Let's go look at it. Go over, it's covered in blood. Yeah. I'm like, I think you double lunged it. And so we start blood trailing, which he loves doing that part.
Fun. Yeah.
And so we blood trail it. And the way this field edge is, the previous owners had pushed all the brush up against to kind of create a windrow to force them either in the timber or over into the field. Yeah. Well, that's great until they then jump into the timber and you got to trail them over there. So we climb over this brush pile, we get in, and we're following the blood trail, and she found a spot where they cross, that's a little easier, but we cross over there and, it's dark and he's, kind of, it's like I'm holding his hand. He's got a flashlight. I got a flashlight. And it's great blood though. So we ended up, I see the deer.
What broadhead were you guys?
I think it was a crossbow setup from the previous years, and it was still set up on a Rage. Like, I think it was a no collar 2.3 chisel tip.
Okay. A big
so
cut.
It wasn't the NAPs. It was a Rage. So we, big time cut. So she's bleeding good. And then we see her belly up. She didn't run 70 yards.
Sweet.
And this was right after he shot her. So, I mean, this was 30 minutes, she obviously died right away.
Yeah.
So we were excited, but then I'm like, I'm used to having a camera guy with me to help drag and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, so now I got to figure this out and get the deer back into the field. So I'm dragging her, we tag her, and then I'm dragging her, and I'm just having him hold a flashlight to kind of lead the path out. And it's a big doe, and I'm dragging her out, and finally I was like, so I cut the back legs or whatever, and put a stick through there to help me get some leverage to drag her out. Okay. So I'm dragging her out, and we get to that windrow. And I'm like, go up. So I'm trying to lift her, hoist her up over it, and I'm pulling back. The stick breaks. I fall back, on the.
Right.
I got my pack on, I fall back, like breaking my back on the back of this.
Maybe saying
log.
a few cuss words.
I'm cussing, and he was filming some of that. And I'm dog cussing this deer or whatever. And so,
Dad, I'm scared.
I'm trying to drag. Oh, he's used to it. So I'm trying to drag her over this. So I get her over one of the logs, and she falls in a hole between the next log. You know what I mean? And or the next tree.
Yeah.
And so finally I was like, why am I doing this? I was like, let's go get the buggy. So I go get the buggy that's got a winch on it, the tracker, and I put it around her legs, and within one push of the button, she goes up over something I was struggling with for 10 minutes. And so then I threw her on the back, and we got her out of there and went and gutted her or whatever. And he was so proud of himself and just kept saying, look at all the blood. Look at look, send mom this, send the picture of this.
That's a great
take
sign.
My picture. Yeah. Cause he early on, in his younger, when he was first kind of getting into it, I think he was just doing it because I was wanting him to do it. Yeah. But I think he actually likes doing it now. So anyways, we got, I got her field dressed and brought her to the processor the next day and all that stuff. And we drove home. It's a couple hours, away. Yeah. And then he wanted to go hunt at Dad's. So
great sign. Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
we took him up for his sister's birthday is November 4th. We made fun of this a lot over the years. So her birthday party was on Saturday the 2nd. So we didn't go for the Missouri youth season on Saturday. That night after the party was over, we Cameron and I was packed up and ready. We went up to Dad's and we hunted that next morning. It was raining a lot, so we didn't go out right away. And we went out, I don't know, we ate breakfast, Forrest cooked breakfast, and then we went out and we're going to sit the rest of the day.
Okay.
And right out of the gate, I think we got in at like 11:30, which is when the heavy rain stopped. Okay. Right out of the gate, I was looking at Deer Cache radar, and that's what we kind of timed it off of.
Sure.
We get in, and at 12 or I think it was right around 12 or 12:30, big buck pops up at the end of the field in the beans, and mature, you could tell, just big body deer. Yeah. And he's eating, and all of a sudden he makes a beeline and he comes into the timber and he pops out right next to us. And of course, the gun and the bog pod and all that was facing the wrong way.
Did not read the script. Yeah.
And so we tried to get the window open, and he was facing us, and then he got behind some limbs and he went behind us. And that was like 12:30. And then so we sat there all day. And of course, Forrest and Terry like, hey, I mean, he could come back out later.
Yeah.
And so we sat there all day, and it was a long. Terry's falling asleep. We got
Terry
pictures.
Looked like he was dead.
Yeah, we got pictures of him. Forrest called it the 4 stages of Terry. He was sitting up like he's on the ground on the box blind. He was sitting up, and then he was hunched over, and then slouched over, and then all the way down. And we got pictures of every stage, and then we're taking videos of him and making fun, putting it on social media. Everybody's giving him crap, and I just love doing that to him.
Yeah, I'm sure he loves it too.
Yeah. Oh, he knows.
It's not safe to go to sleep.
No, and he does it ever since I was Cameron's age. That he slept in the blind every time I've ever hunted with him. So, anyways, the day goes by, and finally the evening hours are starting to hit where deer start to move again in the afternoon, and a couple deer are moving, and finally, boom. And he had a chance to kill a couple younger bucks, and we held off because we knew there was a mature deer in there.
Yeah.
And that buck pops out right where he went in. And this time we were kind of in a better position to be ready. Okay. So open the window and, get the deer. He's kind of quartering pretty hard away, and Dad's trying to stop him, and he's looking. Finally,
a lot of hearing impaired deer.
Yeah, he turned around and he looked at us almost like, what? And it's just funny to look at, and he still didn't turn, and he put his head back down, and finally kind of starts walking a little bit, and I had enough. I was like, and really let it rip, and he turns his whole body cavity, and Cameron puts the shot on him, and quartering away like that. This is why you want, especially for kids, you want a broadside shot as much as possible, so their sight picture is just a little bit bigger. The window of killability is bigger. But he curled in, looking at us, quartering away. So it was a tight shot, and he put it on him, and it was back, but the exit, it sounded like it hit hard, and the exit, sure enough, he was right behind the off front shoulder.
Perfect. Yeah.
And
was that the 350 Legend?
350 Legend, Deer Season XP, and which we've had a ton of success with, and it was a 75-yard shot, so it's right in that wheelhouse. And deer runs off. We go to look, and he's laying over there. We feel like he might still be alive, not 100% positive because it's getting dark. So we back out, go back, eat, and come back, and he was laying right there dead. So so both, great success for the kids, and he's walking in tall cotton and feeling pretty good, and 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and I'm sure Sophie is as well. So that was exciting for me, and it broke. Terry and Forrest have had a tough season, and Lucille killed a good deer. And this was the deer that was out with her deer. It was a 5-year-old, great management buck. So it weighed 227 on the hoof. So it was a good buck to take out. And
let an overly dog out of that deer.
That's right. And so he wanted a shoulder mount, and so we're gonna get his first shoulder mount for his room, and it's all good. Life's good. And then Terry killed, I think the next day, killed a 175, and then Forrest killed a few days after that. So Grandma Lucy kind of broke loose for everybody. So.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So it was exciting. It was a good feeling. And
so it sounds like Cam is definitely, he's a deer hunter. This sounds like a long-term thing.
I think so. And he was telling his mom that he likes the time, because he wanted to come for opening weekend of firearms with me, which I don't think I'm hunting a dad's fart. So I'm probably not going to take him because I'm not really set up for that. But anyways, she asked him why he wants to come, and he said he just likes being with just me and one-on-one time, bro time. So
100%.
Yeah, and he likes blood trailing, he told her. So
it's fun when you put a good hit on him.
Yeah. So anyways.
Sweet. Well, yeah. It's nice.
Congratulations on your deer, on her deer. It's great to break that kind of, what feels like a curse and everybody feels great then.
Yeah. And even Beth can tell a difference in my demeanor. I'm not it's not so much of a second job someone asked me here recently, like, what's it like to film your hunts? And I was like, it's kind of like hosting a talk show where you never know if the guest is going to show up.
And mostly they don't.
And usually they don't. And so you have a lot of footage of nothing.
Yeah, it's a grind. It can be a grind, especially if you're hunting, mature bucks, and it's not like they don't just pop out anywhere. I've passed a lot of good deer this season, a lot of good 3 and 4 year old bucks at point blank range, but I'm after a big deer, really big deer, and so I'm not going to do it. And there's a couple other good shooters I would shoot. It's not like I'm just going to hold out for this one deer or nothing, but. Yeah. It's hard to run into these deer. So the guys that do it and do it often, Mark and Terry and the billion guys out there that are listening that are good, consistent big deer killers, they're probably 1%,
it's a different game.
It is. So anyways, that's what's up next. Hopefully we'll be both coming to the podcast up next, telling big deer stories.
Love to.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Good luck the rest of the way here.
Yeah. Same to you, man.
And
let's keep it rolling.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Good luck to everyone who's still out there.
All right. Until next time, that's it for this episode. Good luck. Be safe. Wear a safety harness. Identify your target. Wear orange if you're hunting with a gun. Peace out.
Take land management to the next level with DeerCast's exclusive virtual rain gauges. Pinpoint accuracy and historical data, all powered by industry-leading ag weather services. DeerCast has the tools to keep you ahead of your game.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast Maps, waypoints, weather, virtual rain gauges, and more. Every tool you need to get ahead of your game.